Okay, so I'm headed down the stairs, gonna go for a walk. Just had something on my mind here. Today, Cheryl and I were walking down the streets of Richmond, and we were gonna head out for a lunch date. And we came across this pole that holds up a street sign, and attached to this pole was a bicycle frame. And it was pretty clear that this bicycle once was whole and was locked to this pole in the hopes that no one would steal it or carry it away. But what was interesting is it was just the frame left. It had the crank and the chain rings and maybe even the pedals on it, but everything else was stripped off of this bike frame. And so you had this bicycle frame void of all of its functional parts, locked to this pole. And I just couldn't help but think that, man, some folks end up in this kind of situation to where, man, they have hopes and dreams, and they sell themselves over to these hope and dreams. They essentially lock themselves to an anchor point, hoping to live a life that is preserved, a life that stays intact. So they lock themselves to an idea or a dream. But over time, man, over time, parts of their lives get destroyed. They get stolen. Parts of who they are die. Sometimes this has to do with the wrongdoing of others. Sometimes it has to do with the wrongdoing of themselves. For whatever reason, man, sometimes people just get stripped of all of their functional parts, and all that's left is the core of who they are, chained or locked to the dream that they once had that was somehow going to preserve them and protect them from the world. Now, this bicycle frame, it looked like it had been chained or locked to this pole for months. And it was just laying there. And day after day after day, people just walk right by this bicycle frame. And it's just laying there on the sidewalk, chained, locked to this pole. And isn't that how people are treated that have lost the functional parts of who they are, their personality, their abilities, their giftings, what they contribute to the world? Then look, they just go through life. They just lay there. They just exist. They don't really do anything. They're locked to a dream, and people just move past them, and they just continue to lay there day after day after day on the sidewalk, on the sidelines. Now, what they need, check this out. This is huge. This is huge. What they need is someone to unlock them from the pole, to maybe even many people, to add back to them functional parts of who they are, to reinforce and reestablish, to encourage, to validate who they are, their wheels, their handlebars, brakes, chain, to build them up to free them from a dream that failed and to build them up, move them to completeness. Wow, so that they can be functional again, so that they can be whole, so that they can contribute to the world, so that people could ride them to the tallest mountains, to the highest peaks, so they could add to the world, add to others. So, man, if you're the bike frame that's been stripped, locked to a previous dream that was going to preserve you and give you a long life, search out those people that'll add back to you. And look, if you know someone who's in a state much like this bicycle, reach out to them. Do your best to provide freedom for them and add back to them through encouragement, validation, education even. Those parts that have long ago been stripped away. So that's a story about a bike frame locked to a pole.